British citizens such as Mom Lucy Connolly get sentenced to 31 months in prison for angry anti-immigrant, or as the BBC puts it, race hate tweets, even as a non-stop stream of reports of extremely violent sex crimes against British girls and women are met with the judiciary equivalent of slaps on the wrist, or with justifications such as the perpetrator's alleged cultural lack of familiarity with rape or the sexual abuse of children as criminal offenses. This is insane, I would argue, since Islam criminalizes both in Muslim countries, unless you're married, of course, to the woman or engaged to her. That's Lucy Connolly. As she just got out of prison for a tweet. A surreal Daily Mail story reported that an 18-year-old rapist of a teenage girl was spared prison time by a British judge because the judge learned that the rapist was a student at an Islamic school that taught him that, quote, women were worthless. I linked to this. Similar confirmed stories are emerging from UK courts in numbers too voluminous even to follow. As someone who has worked in a rape crisis center in Britain and followed sex crime law in Britain for 40 years, I can tell you, you do not get consistent stories such as this regarding rape sentencing unless some kind of larger policy or guidelines are being enacted. The appropriation of public space by Islamic crowds who are not seeking integration into British civil society, but rather their own agendas abound, again escalating dramatically worldwide this year. Furious pro-Palestinian marches in London and in other UK cities are being permitted by UK police to proceed with impunity, even as a Jewish lawyer observer of one such protest was taken into custody for 10 hours because his Star of David, quote, antagonized the protesters. And I linked to this. This performative conflict is not stopping in public spaces or in legally permitted protests. A new memo seems to have gone out worldwide encouraging student protesters to disrupt Western civil society's last sacred space, the classroom. Professor Michael Ben-Gad, an economics professor at the University of London, faced an eruption of protesters in his classroom who objected to the fact that in the 1980s, the professor served in the IDF as all Israelis must. Professor Ben-Gad reportedly said that protesters who had created chaos in his classroom threatened to have his, quote, head chopped off. The last civil society space that unites us all in the beautiful Western value of impartial learning and open debate has been breached. And there is an image of that. What I'm arguing here is that Palestine is not the point. As Professor Ben-Gad himself astutely observed, these eruptions escalated after the Palestine-Israel ceasefire of early October 2025. He noted that an industry depends on hating Israel and that the pro-Palestinian movement is looking for a new rationale. But I would say, taking our viewpoint out to the broadest possible perspective, that Israel-Palestine issues are only the pretext for this escalating claim on Western public space and disruption of Western civic rituals. The goal is just what Wajid Akhtar said to a radical Muslim audience. The goal is domination. Wow. You know, like, I wish I'd started investing in gold 10 years ago. There's no time too late or too soon to invest in gold. What if the next big crash is already in motion and almost no one sees it coming? Got to think about that. Every major economic collapse since 1929 was preceded by the same 7 warning signals. Right now, all 7 are flashing red. These are not headlines. They are deep market indicators that Wall Street prefers you never to hear about, because Wall Street doesn't want you to know what Wall Street knows. That's why our friends at American Alternative Assets created the Bellwether Signal. And this is a free report that reveals what these signals mean and how smart Americans are protecting their savings with buying gold and silver before it's too late. So important. So download your free copy at cloutgold.com, or call the company at 1-855-803-GOLD. That's 855-803-4653, 855-803-4653. You should really get the facts to protect your future, and don't wait for the headlines to catch you off guard. Honestly, gold has gone up and up and up so much, and silver is rising, and there's so much instability in this world. I'm so relieved that we're able to invest in gold, our, you know, little nest egg. We don't want it to be at risk. So it's wonderful to have American alternative assets as a trusted source for gold investment and silver investment. Of the West by radical Islam and the extinction of the Christian and Jewish and Hindu and atheist, secular and open West. So the disruption is the point. The dominance displays are the point. This brings us to New York City. We are seeing something completely impossible to process normally in New York from a sane American political perspective. An avowed socialist candidate, the Democratic frontrunner Zoran Mamdani, has promised a grocery list of Marxist secular deliverables: state-run housing, state-run grocery stores, state-run fast free buses. His also surreal explanation of how free buses will keep bus drivers safer is that homeless people will not be tempted to attack the drivers, enraged perhaps by a demand for a fare. Quote, a key reason we have to make the bus free is that it reduces assaults, end quote. Mamdani has also promised deliverables that no one in New York is asking for, but that are utterly degrading and destructive to the city, such as the legalization of prostitution, which will simply empower cartels and human traffickers. Mamdani bashed NYPD as, quote, racist and, quote, anti-queer. But homosexuality is explicitly forbidden by Islam, and prostitution is frowned upon by Islam as zina, or sexual lawlessness. Quote, from the Islamic standpoint, homosexuality is a forbidden action, a major sin, and anyone who partakes in it is considered a disobedient servant to Allah that will acquire his displeasure and disapproval. This is clearly stated in the three main sources of Sharia, the Quran, the Sunnah, and the consensus of all scholars, which extends from the time of the Prophet till today. There's never been any debate or discussion regarding this viewpoint among the scholars, past or present, simply because the matter was always comprehensive and immutable, end quote. That's a quote from a Muslim scholarly site. Mamdani posed with drag queens, but transgenderism is completely haram or forbidden. Islamic scripture makes clear that male and female are essential biological categories. However, the dramatic performances by Mamdani of his alliance with sex traffickers, queer communities, and transvestite performers is oddly not even being challenged once by his Islamic supporters, to whom all of this is completely religiously forbidden.